Good evening. This is Defacto Review, a weekly analysis of Mongolia's latest political, economic, and social issues by economist and columnist Mr. Jaral Sahi.
Good evening.
And I'll be your host, Tikshirult. Today's topics are on the influx of Russian citizens into Mongolia, the resignation of the Minister of Labor and Social Services, and the Digital Bridge Forum held in Kazakhstan. So, our first topic deals with the amount of Russian people that are coming into Mongolia. So following the announcement of the partial mobilization of some 300,000 reservists to the Russian armed forces by Vladimir Putin, we've seen a sharp increase in the number of Russian citizens in Mongolia. Thousands of Russians have fled to Mongolia to evade conscription to the war in Ukraine, putting further pressure on our government and its efforts to distance itself from the conflict. Russians were lining up for hours at the border, crossing at Kyakhta and Altambutlik border ports between Mongolia and Russia. And though citizens have demonstrated against Russia's invasion in Mongolia, the government itself has remained neutral. And last week, former President Ilpik urged Putin to end the conflict, adding that ethnic Mongolians in Russia have been used as cannon fodder. So this brings a lot of issues to deal with for our government. First of all, Russia's neighbors such as Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland all closed their borders before the announcement of partial mobilization. But Finland, for instance, had left it open. But even they have closed their borders now because a lot of Russians are coming in. So do you think that we should be thinking about doing the same thing, about closing the border?
I don't think so, because we have ethnic Buryat Mongolians who are Buryats, and there is ethnic Mongolians also, Twa, Tuvins, how they call it, and these are in our northern border. As you said, since President Putin announced that partial mobilization on September 21st to mobilize 300,000 soldiers for repelling a counteroffensive in Russia occupied Ukraine. Russian men flee all around, and they are through Georgia, Finland, Kazakhstan, Mongolia. Kazakhstan has already 100,000 Russians. Georgia the same. There is a 10 kilometers long car queue at the border with Georgia. And also they go through Mongolia, every country they border with. And as you said, Finland had closed their border yesterday. Well, Mongolia has very long border line, 3,485 kilometers long border line with Russia. And we have 16 checkpoints or ports with Russia, landlocked ports. And out of the 16 now, 4 active. One is Altambullag, which has one has auto, and also nearby Silinge, Sukabata, it has a railway port. So through which we have almost every day around, on the average, for the last 8 days, 1,000 plus on the average, and by 28th late night, including 28th, we have 10,000 Russians crossed our northern border. Many of them are not staying, around 40%, according to the officials at the Border Protection General Department. And some of them fly now. We have open flights now to Korea, Turkey, so they fly some. Some of them are flying, and more than half of them are planning to stay until things are clear. So we need to wait for that. And we need also to accommodate this amount of people. Our tourism capacity is way higher. So I think about 10, 20, 30,000 would be within our limit possibility. Otherwise, we need to, for particular low income or poor young people, then we need to create some, at least military camp kind of things. And plus there are Buryats who are looking for jobs, and our labor market also needs more skilled people, so we need to know more who can do what. Mm-hmm. and to be hired by Mongolian companies. One issue is the accommodation. The other issue is a visa, because according to the agreement between two countries, Mongolians and Russian citizens can visit each other without visa for 30 days. So now after 30 days, what has happened? Because they need to go somewhere. Otherwise, it would be a violation of law. So now the politicians considering either humanitarian law or some change in our regulations so that we don't deport them to Russia against their will. What are the reactions in Mongolia? As you said, ex-president Elbegdorj had very strongly denounced this war. He says senseless war, killing many young people, like using them like, in particular, ethnic Mongolians, using like as you say, cannon fodder. And he was himself studied in Lviv. He was in a military school. He was a military journalist. So it should be very also personally close to him too, like many Mongolians who studied in Ukraine. This war is really very painful as well. So while Mongolian government staying very neutral, because Mongolia 100% entirely dependent on Russia gas and oil, the Mongolian peoples are majority opposing the war, and that's why we cannot refuse when the people are running away from the war. We cannot refuse. And plus, there are ethnic Mongolians, mostly Buryats. And by the way, there are Buryats in the U.S. They have demonstrated in front of our mission to the UN in New York City and requested or asked or appealed Mongolia to accommodate them to create a bridge for these people who are avoiding that mobilization. So that's one thing. The other thing is I would like to highlight is at the level of president, they have met in Samarkand recently with Putin. Prime Minister went to Far Eastern Economic Forum. So the state of Mongolia government is trying to keep the balance of the relations with Russia, China, and our third neighbors. So this is a really delicate issue, and I think majority of Mongolians are full of support.
Do you think, well, you touched on the issue of the visa. So they're allowed to visit for 30 days, and they can extend their stay once by another 30 days. So they, essentially the people that are willing to stay have 60 days here. So do you think within those 60 days there'll be some sort of emergency change in the legislation regarding this?
Probably it depends on the situation of the war in Russia. If these people suddenly, if there is no war anymore, then certainly these people probably will go home, because many of them left there, whatever they had there. Some of them just came with just a backpack. So it depends on the situation of the war in Ukraine, and it's very hard to guess from now. But one thing is clear, that the Ukrainian soldiers are fighting for their country, and many Russians confused what they are fighting or dying for. That's why so many people are going out in the cities of Russia demonstrating against the war, and total some 2,000 of them are already arrested. So we in Mongolia watch very carefully what's happening in Russia, and in particular when the end and how the end of this war comes.
Our second topic deals with the sacking or the firing of the Minister of Labor and Social Security. So this Monday, Minister of Labor and Social Protection Sarangiril presented policies to be implemented within the framework of the transition from welfare to labor. However, the public was outraged by her speech, which they viewed discriminated against and looked down on some citizens. Specifically, the minister compared the citizens' lives to foot soles, saying our ministry calls poor families as souls families, meaning like the literal sole of feet. Yeah. And that she said that they will be trained as hairdressers. And following this public backlash, Minister Sarangiril held a press conference where she acknowledged her guilt, but did not say that she would take full responsibility for it. And following public demands for her dismissal, the government swiftly removed Sarangiril from her position as a minister after about just 4 weeks on the job, as she was appointed minister after the removal of the double death rule. And Ms. Sarangiril, a member of the state Great Horal, also held posts as the Minister of Health and the Minister of Environment and Tourism. So, do you think that, before the government decided to remove her, do you think that she should have resigned?
According to the Chief Secretary of the Cabinet, Mr. Amarbhai Sagalang, she had requested, or she had sent a letter of request. Whether it is exactly happened or not, before or after, it is not clear. But one thing was clear, that this Prime Minister was in Japan, but this Cabinet Secretary had consulted with him and other members of the Cabinet, and they have decided to dismiss her from her job after this outrageous remark comparing people with it's like India, like caste people, untouchable kind of comparison. For Mongolians to hear that you are a person of a soul, foot soul, it's a big insult. So many people, some politicians in particular, come out and very sharply criticized her, and she really had to resign, and it was, I think, better solution. Otherwise, some people even demanded whole cabinet to be resigned. So what is behind all this stuff is the very fact she said our ministry staff used to call these people like the souls people or bottoms people. That shows the very culture of that ministry, who is supposed to take care of, to have social protection for poor families. And but also at the same time, during her plan to have 1,000 or so hairdressers trained, and they would be given comb, scissors, whatever the hairdresser use. And it was selected in the 3 most populated and many Gerd districts. So whether it was the right way to eliminate the poverty or not, that is a big confusion also. People did not like neither her word nor her plan, because plan was not properly made based on the research. And it is not the only plan made by emotion. Unfortunately, the government, when you have not people in a higher ranking position at the level of minister who has not gone through all this career, just political nominee, and particularly at times like professions like this, people suffer. Not only their money we spend, otherwise could be used for other useful things. But in the end, the government is not achieving the goal they put 4 years before, for example. So that's the damage not only this not well thought words can bring, but also it's physical from the budget cost. So that's why I think the very background of this refusal, resistance of people, discontent of people on that particular word is not only just on the word. It is the very approach of the government. Remember this lady was, when she was a minister of health, she was also accused for misusing some funds during COVID-19, and they were spending way larger, 10 times larger than per person who got sick with COVID. Then otherwise, after we spent for one patient, remember? Mm-hmm. And she was also, when she was a Minister of Tourism and Environment, she was also saying similar careless word about visa, saying that, oh, let this rich Chinese come, we will shake their money, giving them opportunity to play kind of casino, or this kind of making free visa very not to everybody. So this kind of remarks already have shown that she was not very much behaving professionally at the level of minister. But however, she is now a parliament member. And another question is coming now, for last few days since Monday. Who will be replacing her? Since, as you said, they have removed this double daily restrictions. I mean, parliament member having a cabinet seat, so double dale, the Mongolian cloth. Now, there are several female candidates, among which a lot kind of competition is going on now. So that's the situation.
So, firstly, it's very strange that she's known for misusing words, as she was a long-time journalist, like from a young age, right?
Her career was journalist on national TV, and when Mongolia have opened that monopoly on the TV, she had created on TV5. She was CEO and running that effectively that channel. Then she became suddenly a politician, became member of this People's Party, and her ladder of career come very stiff, and 3 times a minister. So, I think it is 2 or 3 times also a parliament member. So it's a lot of honor given to her, yet she is not choosing the right words. She very much sorry for that, she said, but still it was too late. I think it's a good lesson for decision makers to select the words carefully, at least.
So let's move on to our final topic for the week. The annual Bridge Forum, or the annual Digital Bridge Forum, was held in Astana, Kazakhstan, with the theme Central Eurasia as a New Tech Platform. President Tokayev of Kazakhstan attended this forum, which included an alley of IT startups, an exhibition of technology parks from different countries, an exhibition of IT schools, a fair of IT vacancies, and more. The program consisted of 45 panel sessions where leading international experts discussed topical issues around the IT world. More than 5,000 guests, more than 300 IT companies, and more than 200 speakers from all over the world, and 70 investors participated in this event. So what does this forum have to do with Mongolia? Well, Fibo Cloud, a leading Mongolian startup, attended this event. The company was the first Mongolian startup to be included in the Google for Startups program, where the current program that they're in, they selected the top 15 startups in Central Asia, and they were the first Mongolian company to be included. So through this program, Fibo Cloud was selected as one of the 3 startups to present their business to the Kazakh president to solve issues in Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries as a cloud networking company. So seeing how much other countries such as Kazakhstan are investing into their tech sector, do you think that we should be doing the same thing in Mongolia?
We are on the same path. Mongolia is one of the fastly digitalized nation due to the program, and we have recently also created new even ministry, Ministry of Digital Development, where they recently 4 related laws were adopted in Mongolia, protecting privacy of data and being taking care of all this data, digital infrastructure of the country. And it looks like Kazakhstan is doing the same. And President Tokayev had signed a contract with ESCAPE, East Pacific Asia Economic Development Organization of the UN, that next few years Kazakhstan will be one of the best 10 nations in Asia having a digital economy. So it's a huge digital transformation is going on in Kazakhstan. And at that forum, which is in Astana for the first time, he had highlighted the vision of Kazakhstan for next 10, 20 years, and how he will have more internet for 40% of the nation who are living in rural areas. So he said we need more stronger digital infrastructure, and he will work with SpaceX of Elon Musk. You know, Elon Musk was a key in Ukraine, providing internet, not depending on any operator in the country or outside of the country. The whole cell phone in Ukraine can be connected through the satellites around the world. So it's a good solution in Kazakhstan, Mongolia. It's a huge country also. It is one of the way to outreach everybody, everywhere, anytime. So, you know, whether we like or not, the whole world is becoming digital. And Asia is very strong in front of that. Mongolia is also in the same line. Having said that, this Fibo Cloud Mongolian company, it's one of the 60 or so companies under ICT group of Mongolia, where they are becoming one of the driver of this digital transformation of the nation in Mongolia. There are several similar companies, but it's one of the strongest one, and Fibo Cloud is one of them under the ICT group. What they do is they have creating cloud computing, how they call it, which means many computers or many, say, one ministry computer or one military or whatever, many computers network is connected in the cloud, and they program all this database into such a way that it is more user-friendly and they can find easily, and they have a less space because it has to do with the database. In Mongolia, we have a national state database. Mobicom has own database, and these ICT companies, they have own database. But what's good was this Google startup program. They select 15 companies this year, and one of them is this Fibo Cloud from Mongolia. They have selected also from Azerbaijan, Singapore, and they are represented now at this forum in Astana. And out of this 15, first three companies selected, or one, had the chance to introduce their products to President Tokayev on the three companies. And one of them is Fibo Cloud. And what was good, I also have checked what happened afterwards during that exhibit. And Fibo Cloud got a contract with number one largest database of Kazakhstan as a client. So it's about $1.5 million contract, and which say for 1 year. But it says that many Kazakhstan database computers, networks, government network, altogether comes to Fibo Cloud, and through Fibo Cloud, they are installed. Data is put into the database of this Kazakhstan database is so-called a Tier 3 database. In Mongolia, we have Tier 2 database. That means that, for example, database of Google, it's Tier 3, 4, meaning that they are almost 24 hours work. All computers work like this level. It's very hard. 99%, 97% is Tier 2. 98% of time working is Tier 3. And so this is so much important in the large database of Kazakhstan using Mongolian cloud computing. It's also very important for us to have to be proud of it. You know, the Mongolian companies can do this, and so that's why Mongolian, for example, eMongolia platform can be using that cloud to install their materials into database.
So you mentioned the databases in Mongolia, such as the state database. Do you think that Mongolians should contract this company, like within Mongolia, to also take care of its needs?
I cannot say should or should not, but it's one of the available cloud computing company that can give the service to the government of Mongolia. If it can give to the government of Kazakhstan, why not? Now, because this cloud computing system is Amazon, for example, and all the Google, they are in the US. They can do it, but will they pay so much detailed attention to a small market like Mongolia or not? Or it will be just general, like a lunch menu, use it. Instead, maybe depending on the specifics of the country, all the data collections, computing, maybe it may require quite much customer-tailored approach. That's what my understanding, though I'm not IT guys. I'm president of FinTech Association of Mongolia, where we have a lot FinTech or banking on mobile device. Are members of this association. It's a very successfully growing, and most importantly, they are protecting the interests of FinTech companies. I think it's one of the important steps to make Mongolia more digital.
Well, even if the government doesn't use it, at least this
companies.
shows that Mongolians can do things in the tech sector.
Well, this FIPO cloud of Mongolia, they are already half of the Mongolian consumption is with them already. Though it's a very young company, a lot of young people just started in the US and other Western countries come back together and made this company, which had joined this ICT group. Okay. So I think it's a good news.
So do I. That is all for this week. This has been Defacto Review, a weekly analysis of Mongolia's latest political, economic, and social issues by columnist and economist Mr. Jarasahang.
Thank you very much for staying with us every week. We try to reflect three important issues that might impact on the way Mongolians living. And most importantly, we give this information in English for those who does not speak Mongolian. Why? Because I think we can succeed only in cooperation with the whole world. That's why. That's the whole purpose of our program. Thank you for staying with us. Please watch our other programs in our website, jargaldefacto.com, and related Facebook and other social media. Thank you.